This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to week 4 of effective copywriting. I am really glad that you guys have really worked hard this month and you're in your last week, and now we're going to wrap it all up by writing about our campaign that we just did for our nonprofit organizations and then talking about our process in the Mastery Journal. I'll talk about the assignments in a minute, but first I want to talk a little bit about what else you can do with your writing skills. It's not just copywriting we did this month. We're doing some academic writing. We did some creative writing with the Personas project. So being a good writer just will make you a better designer because it gives you another skill set to add to your resume and your portfolio. And nowadays, with all of the ways people ingest media, there are more and more places for writing that, jobs like content and new media and websites and social media planning. So I want to go over a little bit about what writing for new media kind of entails and the other opportunities that are out there for you with good writing skills. So when we talk about new media, I'm kind of making a blanket statement about all kinds of digital media that are out there. So with any type of interactive media, you have to think about how the medium is being ingested or used or consumed. So you want to think about how a writer needs to be an expert in like journalism and copywriting, because that's usually writing that needs to be read. I can't tell you how many times I use the Apple News app and I find typos in news stories. I'm just like appalled. Writing to be heard can be anything from narrations to radio spots, and that's really relying on your descriptive skills. And then writing that's seen either in presentations or videos, YouTube channel videos, everything that's out there. In case of nonprofits, maybe you're writing some public service announcements for them. So when we talk about content marketing, we're talking about writing everything out there that people use. So blogs, articles, interviews, briefs, scripts for video, social media. Someone is writing all the content that you guys are consuming every single day. So with any writing that you do for a client or your boss or whatever, remember, grammar still counts, spelling counts. I'm kind of shocked when I see type. I just saw one on the air the other day in a lower third. I'm like, there's not even that many words on the screen. How could you possibly have misspelled one? So spelling and grammar and punctuation count. You want to make sure you're getting to the point in your writing, especially because when you're writing for new media, people don't have the biggest attention spans and they're either going to swipe or click away. So be concise, but be thorough. Make sure you're thinking about every question a customer might ask about your product and that you have the answer to it. Remember about continuity. So if you're managing social media for a brand, you want to make sure that the voice remains consistent throughout. So your sentences should be active, and you always want to push your creativity. And I always say push beyond that, make a difference, which is so cliche now. Okay, so what you want to think about is, digital media is ingested differently. People consume it differently. So it's when you write copy, say for the web, it's going to be completely different from print, where people tend to read in a linear fashion, just like, page 1 to page 2. Well, web copy usually isn't read in order. It could be, but it might not be. So you have to be prepared to inform your audience no matter where they land on your website. People are scanning for information. They're just glancing at it. So you want to make sure your concise writing is really present. So you want to think about writing in what's called an inverted pyramid, so that your most important information is first, and then as you move down the page, lesser important information can be then shared. So when you're writing for the web, I've got a bunch of tips for you. Remember your target audience. They're coming to your website usually for specific information about a product, a service. Maybe they want to read something. Maybe they just want to watch a video. So make sure that you understand who your audience is and that the writing, speaks actually to that target audience. That's why we did those persona projects, so that you really understand who the target audience was for your nonprofit organizations. So you want to make sure that what they are looking for is easily found so that things aren't getting lost in the sauce or getting lost in a sea of words on the page. So that inverted pyramid, like I talked about on the last screen, is really important. You don't want to be overly creative or overly obtuse. You want to make sure that it's clear and concise. So it's not like they're going to sit there and read every single word that you write. So make sure that it's easy to find information, because they're scanning, they're not reading. So make sure that the headline of your page is really informing the reader of what that page is about. So if they don't need the information on it, they can just click to the next page. You want to make sure that the images that you use on your pages or your mobile apps, that they coincide with the message that you're producing, because you want that image and the words to create synergy and work together. So if you have subheads, you want to make sure that they're like summarizing the key points. And remember, if you do have to add some words, think about using bullet points, because they're really easy to scan, like these. So use familiar words and don't overwrite your copy. Unless it's an academic website, you want to, remember who your audience is and write to that audience. So people going to the web usually aren't there to read a lot, so you want short paragraphs, 4 sentences max. Short sentences, 12 words per sentence is usually the average. I always say if you read your sentence aloud and you have to gasp for breath, then your sentence is too long. That's from Walt Whitman. You want to skip those unnecessary words. So that's a really great place to cut back on your writing, is where you're maybe using too many descriptive words or you're overemphasizing the same thing over and over again. So watch out for jargon, passive tense, and needless repetition. And you always want to think about, especially on a website, that you're addressing the customer personally by using second tense with you. Remember, you don't control where your web visitor goes, so make sure that when they land on your page that they know where they are, and if it doesn't have exactly what they need on that page, that they can find it. So again, make the page easy to scan. Make sure that they can find their way back to the home page if they need to. If they need to find contact information, if they want to make a donation for nonprofits, that's really huge. That donation button should be on every single page, and it should be really easy to find. So each page should, have that call to action on it, so that you're really reinforcing your message on every page. Then when you're advertising, whether it's a new mobile site or a website, you want to make it easy for people to find it. So you want to make sure you're advertising it wherever you can. Remember who your customer is and go to the places where they go and advertise it there. Then look through the copy that you just wrote. This goes for every piece of writing you do for a customer that's advertising a product or a service or a nonprofit. You want to step into that audience member's shoes and read the copy, and then pose any questions that that customer might have, and make sure that all those questions are going to be found in that website or that mobile app, or if it's any other type of piece of writing, that people can find what they're looking for. Make it easy. So keep it on the websites, keep it to one topic per page, make sure all your links are working, and remember, use the right kind of keywords that are going to attract your audience. So you want to be clear, concise, and specific, but be bold. Don't avoid that cliched language and overused phrases like make a difference. There is a really good writing for the web tutorial on lynda.com. And then our textbook, Advertising Concept and Copy, also has some great advice on interactive advertising and writing for social media. So there's some resources. Okay, now I want to talk about presenting to a client. When you're presenting to a client, this is why I'm having you write this research paper, because it's really going to inform yourself on the concepts that you are pitching to the client. It's going to get you organized. It's going to make sure that you understand the client, the product, and the problem statement so in depth that you can pitch your concept and it really answers their advertising problem, and they pick you to do their campaign for them, because that's what you're presenting to a client. You're usually answering an RFP with specifics. So this research paper that we're writing this week, that hopefully you started last week, will help you present to a client. So you want to be confident, and the best way to be confident in any type of pitch is to make sure you've done your research, all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. You don't want to fake it because the client will know when you're faking it. So you want to, again, I just said this with the writing for the web copy, understand what the client might ask you before they ask you the question. Be prepared. I worked for 14 years at a PBS affiliate, and the president of that PBS affiliate would ask me the most harebrained questions that would just come out of left field. So after the first year, I kind of understood how he operated. So I made sure I could think the way he did, and I could have the answers to any wackadoodle question that he would ask me. So it's really important to be prepared, because the more prepared you are, the more confident you are. So doing like this research paper where you're really investigating who the client is, what their needs are, and how you're going to solve their advertising problem is a really good exercise. So something you want to do before you go into the room is find out who's going to be there, because that way you can forge a personal connection with them. Maybe there's someone in the room that you find out really hates the color turquoise blue. You make sure your slides aren't turquoise blue. So you want to make sure that you do the research, if you can, on the people who are going to be in the room, and it's okay to ask who's going to be in the room, or to do research on their website to see who are the chief officers of that nonprofit organization or that company. You want to have your pitch structured so that you go in there, and this also helps with the confidence. You know exactly what to say and when to say it. So structuring it in this sort of flow is kind of important. You want to share the research, so sharing the insights you gained from the research, because you're there to educate the client on this solution that you're pitching to them. So explain how the conclusion is based on this insight. The research that you did is going to lead to the solution to their ad problem. So explain how that's going to happen and what the research revealed about that. Then you want to walk them through the concept. So talk about this concept that in this case, you're writing about your testimonial ads. So let's talk about them specifically. Talk about the concept of the spokesperson. Who is it? Why is it that person? Why do they say what they say? What's the typography in the ad? What fonts are you using? What's the color scheme? Did you stick with their current logo scheme, or are you trying to do something a little different? So communicate how that concept will be conveyed. This is where you're talking about how these ads are going to look in the magazine. But right now you have their undivided attention. So this is a place where you can pitch extra things to the client, like as part of your social media campaign, you can use the spokespeople to tweet for you. You can create public service announcements that can run on your YouTube channel by doing these public service announcements based on these testimonial people that we have. So pitch them some other ways that this concept can play across a media plan. So include things like video or interactive media, radio. Think about expanding the media plan beyond just those print ads, because you have their undivided attention. And then if you pitch them other ideas, then you get paid more because you're doing more work. So once you reveal how the concept is going to be conveyed across media, you want to stand there and make sure you're revealing the benefit, why you're executing these testimonial ads the way that you are. So state the takeaway. As a result, this is where you can get into specifics and you've done your research. Talk about the ROI on the ads. How can, by doing this print ad campaign directed at the target audience, what's going to be the takeaway? And that's where you hammer on the goal of the campaign is to help them raise money or raise awareness. So if you kind of go into a client meeting and structure your pitch, this will really help you. Okay, so what we have going on this week is we're talking about the research paper, and we're going to construct it as if we're doing a client pitch based on our campaign for our nonprofits. So you're going to start the paper. Remember, it's 5 to 7 pages, so it needs to have 5 to 7 secondary sources. If you need a reminder on that, go back to the week 3 archive. I talk in detail about all the resources you already have for this paper because you've already done a bunch of the research. So you're going to talk about who the organization is and what their problem statement is. Remember, the goal of most ad campaigns for nonprofits is to raise money, and as a result, they raise awareness. So make sure that's part of your problem statement. Then you're going to do your thesis statement, which is the backbone of your paper, and it includes that problem statement, but it's explaining it through how this paper is going to set forth the argument as to why this campaign would work and how you're going to solve it. So that's the thesis statement. There is a sample thesis statement inside the instructions on FSO. So if you need a skeleton to get your thesis statement, use that one. Just make sure you put your own client's name in it, your nonprofit. Now with the body of the paper, that's going to start on page 3, because remember, page 1, this is APA, has a title page. Page 2 is the abstract. Your paper is going to start on page 3, and the first thing besides the running head and the page number is going to be the title of the paper. Then you're going to go into your paragraphs, and you're going to give specific details on the company. Talk about their history. Give me their origin story. Who started it? Why did they start it? What is their goal? What do they want to accomplish? Then talk about what differentiates your nonprofit organization from all the others out there. What separates your animal charity from the other animal charities that are competing against you? So do some differentiation and talk about what separates your nonprofit organization from all the rest. Then specify the target audience for your campaign. Remember, you did this in week 2 with the target audience profiles. You want to describe the voice and tone of the campaign. It's really important that the voice of the brand is clear. You did all that research in week 1 when you wrote that first small essay. Then you're going to talk about why this project's important. Remember, when we created these ads, we talked in our body copy about who the nonprofit organization is, what they do, why it's important, and why should I care. So go back and talk about why this project is important and what they do and what can be accomplished through the fundraising that you do. Then you want to talk about the campaign itself. I want you to think about expanding your media plan. So you're talking in depth about your print ads that you've just designed, so you can talk about the images that you used and the type of spokesperson it is and why you chose that spokesperson. Remember, it's in third person. So talk about your spokesperson in terms of the definitions that Felton put forth in the textbook. There's another resource for you. Be specific, then talk about where else this campaign can go. So think about the YouTube channel, public service announcements, billboards, direct mail pieces. So think about that. Then talk about how those media choices correspond to your target audience. Remember, younger demographic consume media completely different than older audiences. It's getting a little bit, the lines are crossing a little bit more, but you want to think about it. If you're trying to get a bunch of young people to come to a concert to raise money for a turtle foundation, then they're not going to be reading magazines, probably. They're going to be online somewhere. So you have to think about your media plan in terms of your target audience and how they get their media. Then you want to talk about specifics of the campaign, why you chose the images, the typography, the copy. Think about just having every fact about the campaign in that paper so that if you have to do a client pitch, everything is right there in front of you. Okay, so that's your paper. It is 5 to 7 pages, and it is due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. It has to be an APA style, so you have to have those 5 to 7 secondary sources on the last page, which is your reference page. And remember, alphabetize your entries. This is week 4, so no late work. So get things done, because after you turn in everything on Sunday, you have a week off, I believe. Yes, it's the 23rd. I'm looking at the calendar. So beginning on July 1st, you are off for summer break for the entire week of July 1st through the 7th, and then your month 5 class is going to open up on July 8th, so you can have a breather, which you rarely get. So I want you to hand in all your week 4 work and then go on vacation for a week. But before we do that, let's talk about the Mastery Learning Project. So in the platform, this is your Mastery Learning Project, and it's a reflection post that's going to walk us through the process of creating this ad campaign for your nonprofit organization. So you're going to use your Felton textbook to back up your claims that you're making about why you did things that you did. Again, think about how Felton describes those spokespeople, how Felton describes body copy and headline use and taglines. So use the reading assignments and use the tutorials to help you construct this reflection post. You're going to walk through it like this. You're going to reflect on your experience in the class. So first you're going to review what you read this month. Then you're going to consider the research from the textbook and the tutorials and write a 4 to 5 paragraph reflection of your experience creating these concepts and these print ads and writing copy for your nonprofit organizations. So use direct quotes from Felton and the tutorials in proper APA style as you discuss the process that you went through in creating these ads. You must include relevant screenshots. So if you're talking about, say, the target audience profiles, then I should see the target audience profiles. Then discuss your target audience. You develop this. Now talk to your audience in the Mastery Journal about why these people are your target audience. Then what you're going to do is you're going to put your 6 sketches up there and talk about those. Remember, Felton's pages from 241 to 246 talk about those specific types of spokespeople. So talk about your approaches to this and the 6 that you did and why you chose the 3 that you did. Then you're going to list your 3 initial comps and talk about how you developed these are your 3 strongest concepts. How did it connect to your target audience? How did you develop your headlines? So here I give you some more page numbers in the Felton book. Then the final thing you're going to put in there, screenshot wise, are your 3 revised comps. The whole purpose of this Mastery Journal is to see your process, how you develop them at the beginning by doing research and working on your target audience, to sketching out your concepts, to doing your first set of comps, to doing your final set of comps that you revised in week 3. You're going to talk about how you created an improved, cohesively branded campaign for your nonprofit. Then the last thing you want to write about are your 3 takeaways from what you learned in creative and effective copywriting. You want to talk about maybe how you developed your creative writing skills when you created your personas. Maybe you want to talk about the swipe file that you started in week 1 and how looking at other pieces of advertising helped you synthesize exactly what you read in the Felton book. I mean, if Felton's talking about something specifically, he then gives you an example by showing you an actual ad in the book. So that's synthesis, talking about something and seeing it, and that's how you kind of connect it. You want to make sure that everything is spell checked, grammatically correct. You have your in-text citations, you have your references listed at the bottom, and then you're going to post this whole thing in your Mastery Journal and then post your working link into the platform by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Okay, so everything for this post you've already done. You just have to put it together and kind of walk your reader through the process of developing these ads for your campaign. Okay, the rubrics here, there's some resources here. So get at it because everything's due Sunday. And if anything, you have any questions while you're starting to work on this, please don't hesitate to ask. Okay. And I want to say thank you all for working hard this month and getting things done. When you get the student evaluation in your fullsail.edu email account, please fill it out. Let me know if there's stuff in the course that, needs work, you need changes, what you learned, what you didn't learn. So make sure you're filling out your course evaluations. And I'll see you again in month 12. So in between months 4 and month 12, if you need me, I don't go away. I can be there at a quick email or a phone call. So as you're moving through the program and you need some help with copywriting specifically or academic writing, please reach out to me. Just because I'm not your course director that month doesn't mean I can't help. Okay? Thanks so much.